right, now to discuss more about Indonesia's chances against Australia, let's welcome back today's guest, who is a football analyst from Ruang Taktik, Yusuf Raihan. Mas Raihan, I always say it's a pleasure to see you because when you're here, it means Indonesia is still in the tournament. Before we get into the meat of the discussion, which is the upcoming match, obviously, between Indonesia and Australia, let's first go over the last match that Indonesia played, which was against Japan. Obviously, that came at a loss, but we still went through anyway because of how we finished in third. But how did you think Indonesia played according to Coach Shin Tae-yon's directions from the start? Was it according to plan? What was your take?
Yeah, I think it was a commendable performance.
Okay.
If I must say about them, about our boys in red and white colors.
Decent first half?
Yeah, decent first half. Though, it didn't start off really well with the penalty that Jordi Amat gave away in like the first couple of minutes.
Right. So it put ourselves in a hole right from the start.
Yeah, it all went out the window in that like first 5 minutes. But obviously the response to that was really, as I said before, commendable. I think they deserve praise from their performance. And yeah, although it was a loss, but it was still a really decent performance on the pitch against the Japan team, who is probably the strongest team in Asia.
Yeah.
And a 3-1 loss isn't really that bad if you compare the quality between these two national teams. And yeah, even though it was not really, the offensive performances wasn't really that good because we only mustered up like I think a single shot on target.
Right.
But it was, obviously playing against Japan, it would be really difficult. Even anyone,
I think part of the reason is because if Japan had already guaranteed themselves a spot, they probably wouldn't even have put in their full effort or perhaps even taking a couple of their players off to rest and rotate some players. But because their backs were up against the wall as well, we faced a Japanese team that was coming at us like full force.
Yeah, obviously that played into the factor as well.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it wasn't the worst of performances as well. We scored a goal from the long throw. Sandy Walsh getting his first goal for Indonesian national team, and that was a nice moment. That was a really good moment to watch.
Definitely so. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Australia. They actually finished first in Group B with 7 points. What do you think so far of Australia's performance in the group stage, as they actually won 2 matches and they had a tie against Uzbekistan?
Yeah, I think that they are still showing that they are one of the strongest teams in Asia, but they are not as strong as they used to be, like in the Tim Cahill days or Mark Viduka days. They are probably still one of the top 5 teams in Asia, but they're not as good as Japan or maybe Qatar or maybe even South Korea, who isn't actually playing their best football in this tournament. But they are solid defensively. They have amassed 2 clean sheets in this tournament, and they are, I think one thing that is right to describe them is they are physical.
Okay.
They have physicality all over the pitch, from the forward line to the defensive line. I think that is going to play a huge part in this tournament, especially in this game against Indonesia, where we might struggle aerially or physically against this Australia team. But they are not as strong as Japan. Maybe technically they are not as excellent as Japan in tight spaces. So I think that we might actually find it easier to play against Australia than against Japan in the game before. So I think we have a better chance of,
securing a win. I know you want to say securing a win, but hey, it is do or die.
Yeah.
So we do have to get a victory out of this.
So yeah, I think we can be cautiously optimistic playing against this Australia team.
I like that word, actually. So speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about matchups. In your opinion, what strategy is Coach Shin Tae-yong going to use against the Socceroos? Like, do you think Shane Patinama is going to actually even take the pitch?
So yeah, I think that before going into Indonesia's strategy, I want to highlight, or I want to go into Australia's game plan. So here this is Australia in attacking phase. So what we're going to see here is that I think Graham Arnold has taken a leaf out of Ange Postecoglou's notebook. So here you can see that this is a fullback who is coming inside. So you would usually find a traditional fullback going out wide here, right?
Correct.
Filling in the spaces in the flanks. But with Graham Arnold, I think he has taken inspiration from another fellow Australian manager and played these two fullbacks as an inverted fullback. So you have this extra midfielders here while still having these number 8. So the midfielders will go up high, and then you have this nice front 5 who is filling every corridor on the pitch horizontally. So yeah, this is the main aim for this is actually if you have a winger, they will be sucked into the middle. So it opens up a passing lane to these wide midfielders
for these two.
Or for these wingers.
Right.
Yeah, for these two, who is pretty, I would say, dribbly, if that's a word. They like to take on their man.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the shape of the attacking organization of the Australian team. And we can also see here as well, as I mentioned before, the number 8s, they will go really high. And especially this guy, Jackson Irvine, who is more of a box-to-box midfielder, is a really dangerous threat of the ball because he has that goal-scoring instincts, and he has scored 2 goals in this Asian Cup.
This does not leave Australia vulnerable for counters if they're pushing up so high?
So I think that is actually, I would argue for the opposite.
Okay.
Because with this inverted fullbacks going inside, then that would mean they are going to be closer to the defensive organization. So if you have your fullbacks up here, then it would mean that they would, they would have to cover up a lot of distance.
Right. More space. Got
Yep.
it. Okay.
So yeah, that is, I think, the main idea behind the inverted fullback strategy. And this is a similar one.
Okay.
You have this inverted fullbacks going inside, but I think that the main difference between the previous screenshot is that this guy, Riley McGree, I think he is probably going to be the key player if Australia is going to is probably going to gain a win against Indonesia, because I think this guy, he is really excellent in tight spaces. He is a really good dribbler, and he is really technical as well. So Uzbekistan done their homework, and they have their center backs who usually will be here.
Right.
He will mark aggressively towards this guy, Riley McGree, and they don't want him to have any space, have any time to receive the ball, to turn, and to attack their defensive line. So I think that Justin Hubner, he will have a lot of tasks.
Big responsibility. That would be his job then.
Yeah, that would be his job. I think he is going to have to be disciplined. He is going to be aggressive. He is going to have to be aggressive against this guy, against Riley McGree. And yeah, so that would mean there is going to be a space left behind here.
Right.
And here, Jordi Amat, he will have to be really cautious as well, really aware of maybe like runs in behind from this striker.
Okay.
So I think that the key thing is that we will have to try and limit the importance of the impact of Riley McGree, and maybe actually try to, funnel down the attack down to their left-hand side, because I think that they are not as strong in the left-hand side compared to the right-hand side.
Oh, like force them left, basically.
Yeah, force them left, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to look out for that matchup later on tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
And yeah, here is another example where Riley McGree, there's a lot of space here, but Riley McGree is being marked out by the Uzbekistan defender who is stepping up from the defensive line. But here, I will argue why we need to funnel the attack to the left-hand side, because Jackson Irvine, who is excellent just on two boxes, so on the defensive boxes or the attacking boxes, he is not as strong playing in between the lines.
Okay.
He does not receive the ball very cleanly like Riley McGree. He is not exactly the best dribbler, so he isn't exactly the best player technically. But I think that we have to be cautious for his maybe off-ball runs here. Oh, sorry. His off-ball runs from deep, so he might be a surprise because, yeah, his off-ball runs, his movement of the ball is really good, and that's why he has scored 2 goals in this tournament. But, you know, I think that the main thing here is that we have to try to limit this guy, Riley McGree, because I think he is Australia's best player in this tournament, I think. Even though he has only started 1 game.
Okay.
So we will be looking at some statistics here. And yeah, I will say that Riley McGree, this is why we have to be really cautious, because this is a scatter chart from players with 10 plus take-ons or dribbles attempted in this tournament.
Right.
And Australia, they have 3 players who are attempting a lot of dribbles. So
this is including all players, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all players with 10 plus take-ons attempts.
Right.
So Jordan Boss, Riley McGree, and Martin Boyle. So these 2 are the wingers. He is the right winger for Australia, and this is the left winger, who is actually a left back, but he is playing as a left winger in this tournament. And we have here Riley McGree. So here is the success percentage of the take-ons attempts. And as you can see here, Riley McGree is the best in the effectiveness of his take-ons. 64% success percentage. That is the best in this tournament within players with 10 plus take-ons attempts. So yeah, he is not only just, you know, trigger happy in his dribbling, but he is also effective with it.
Okay, efficient.
That is not something you can say with Martin Boyle here, who is probably one of the least effective dribblers in this, you know.
It's done under 30%.
Yeah, just under 30%. And Jordan Boss, he is pretty average, I think, even though he is below the median. But with the eye test, I think he was really dangerous as well with the ball. So I think Martin Boyle is someone that is not as effective as these 2, but he is still going to be, we have to watch for him as well in the right flank. And Jordan Boss, Riley McGree, you will see why I highlighted them.
Okay, because they're going to touch the ball plenty, I think, these 3, right?
Yeah. Okay. So they are 3 players who we have to watch for.
Okay.
And yeah, we will come back. We are going to come back with Irvine again. And this is something that we have to watch out for as well. So this dropping striker who is going to make a lot of space in behind. This guy, we have to track him. So we have to be aware. So these 3 players, they have to be aware of his movement. And I think that is going to be the key for Indonesia defensively. So you might expect Sandy Walsh or Rizky Ridho, or even the midfielders here, maybe Iver Jenner or Marcelino Ferdinand, to play a key role in trying to shut his game down.
Okay.
So I think the key players here are, as I mentioned before, Riley McGree, Jackson Irvine, and those 2 wingers who are going to be a handful for Indonesia.
Okay.
And now we are going to go into the defensive organization, where Australia will use a 4-4-2 defensive structure, and this is where I think they are excellent at. They are really physical, they are really intense, and they are very disciplined as well. So you can see that the spaces between the players, it's not
Very tight.
Yeah, it's very tight, and they do not leave a lot of space for us. So I think that the main thing here for Indonesia is try to build up constructively. I think that we have to be patient in constructing attacks. So yeah, and the thing with Australia, they will also press high up and force us long. So yeah, they are really intense in the sense that the spaces are really squeezed, and you can see here that every player has their man, and here with the curve runs they can force their opponents to go long here.
What's the key to beating a tight defensive line like this? Is it going wide?
So I think the key is try to be calm and more decisive with the ball. I think that Indonesia's defenders, they actually have the ability to play out of pressure.
Okay.
I think in the Japan game there are several moments where we neatly got out of pressure with a constructive build-up actually.
Okay.
So I think that is one of the strategies, I think. But also going long isn't actually the worst idea.
Okay.
If you can actually expose the defensive backline, the space in behind.
Right.
But you are not going to win an aerial header against these two players because
Right. Look at the size of them.
yeah, look at him. Harry Suter, he
Yeah.
is a man mountain.
Okay.
He is 198 centimeters
Wow.
high. So you can imagine Rafael Strauch going up against him.
Right.
He is not going to win any aerial duel. So
Okay.
I think going long is probably not the worst idea, but I don't think it is the best idea.
But it plays right into their game plan.
Yeah, but they're not as quick maybe as Rafael Strauch. So maybe if we can gain the space in behind, that would maybe
Give us an
play,
advantage.
give us an advantage and play into our hands.
Okay.
So, yeah, as we can see here, another statistics. I want to highlight this. So they have the third highest, the third most high turnovers, which means that they gain the ball back in pretty dangerous areas, pretty high up, and that shows their aggressiveness in pressing high, and they are effective. As you can see here, there are 37 high turnovers with 5 of them ending in a shot. So I think that is going to be the main thing for Australia, is that they are physical, they are intense, but they may not be technically as good as Japan or South Korea. So I think that is going to be something that we can take into account, and maybe we can be, why I said before, cautiously optimistic playing against this team.
Okay. So, I mean, that all of those points to a pretty big mountain to climb for Indonesia. So let's, before we get your prediction, let's have a look at, this is your predicted lineups for later tonight.
Yeah, I think that Indonesia will play in a 3-4-3 again, but I think that Walsh will come in for Rizky Ridho, because I think Walsh is superior aerially, and we saw in the first game against Iraq where Rizky Ridho struggled against Ayman Hussein in in the air. So I think Walsh will come in, and Asnawi will play as the right wing back, and Arhan will keep his place, I think, because in the press conference he was there, so that is a big clue.
It's a good
for
sign.
us.
Okay.
And I think Witan will actually play because Egy is, I think, injured from the previous game, and his pace and his directness could play a big role for us in mastering counter-attacks against Australia, which is, I think, one of our weaknesses. We actually have 0 direct attacks so far in this.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, from the stats from Opta. So we haven't been really effective in the counter-attacking situations. And for Australia, I expect them to play in a 4-3-3 formation again. Harry Suter, he will be the leader in the defensive line with Gethin Jones and Aziz Behich coming inside as the inverted fullbacks. And here, this guy, he will be the key. And also Boyle and Boss playing down the flanks with Yeji leading the line up front.
Okay. All right, there you go. So all that being said, as we like to do, what's your predicted score and outcome for tonight?
I'm feeling optimistic today,
nice.
actually.
I like it. You know, you weren't far off in your previous prediction from the match before Japan, so...
Yeah. I think a win, but in penalties.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right, because we are in the round of 16 now. There's no more draws available. Yep. So you're expecting the score will be a tight score line then?
I think it's going to be 1-1.
1-1? Okay, yeah. I like it. I like your prediction. I'm actually going to stick with your prediction.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking at least 1-0, hoping to keep them off the scoreboard. But if it goes to a penalty, hey, who knows, right? Anything can happen. Hassan, thank you so much for this edition of Sport Talk, where we will obviously watch the match later on tonight as well. We will bring you all the highlights and results tomorrow morning on the program. But once again, good luck to our Garuda squad. We'll take another short break here now on the program. But when we return, we've got some of the latest updates from around the world. So stay tuned for that right here on the C Morning Show.